Okay, Bob. Aaj, Bobby.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us today. We will have a discussion with Dr. Saima Hussain Ijaz on the early years of autism. We are planning on doing series with Dr. Ijaz on autism from early years to adulthood, under the banner of No Fun Being Ordinary, a project we started in 2019. Autism spectrum disorder, ASD, refers to a range of conditions characterized by some degree of impaired social behavior, communication, language, and a narrow range of interests and activities that are both unique to the individual and carried out repeatedly. Autism spectrum disorder begins in childhood and tends to persist into adolescence and adulthood. In most cases, the conditions are apparent during the first 5 years of life. Individuals with ASD often present other co-occurring conditions, including epilepsy, depression, anxiety, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. The level of intellectual functioning individuals with ASD is extremely variable, extending from profound impairment to superior levels. I want to share a few facts in regard to autism spectrum disorder. 1 in 68 children has an autism spectrum disorder. It is one of the fastest growing developmental disorders in the USA. It is more common than childhood cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. Now think about it. Boys are 5 times more likely than girls to be diagnosed with autism. While some people with ASD can live independently, others have severe disabilities and require lifelong care and support. Worldwide, people with ASD are often subjected to stigma, discrimination, and human rights violation. Globally, access to services and support for people with ASD is inadequate. The earlier autism spectrum disorder is diagnosed and treated, the better. Outcomes for children's lives are significantly improved with early diagnosis and treatment. There is currently no medical detection or cure for autism spectrum disorder. Although the multiple causes of ASD are not known, parents do not and cannot cause autism spectrum disorder, and a mother's behavior before, during, and after pregnancy does not cause autism. To help us understand this much better, we are honored to have with us Dr. Saima Hussain Ijaz from Canada, who is an expert in this field. Dr. Ijaz is working for the Family Support Institute, FSI, of British Columbia, a non-profit organization that supports and serves families of children, individuals with any disability, physical, intellectual, or social communicative. Dr. Ijaz is a regional network coordinator for the Central and North Vancouver Island and acts as FSI ambassador for this region. Besides other roles, she has been conducting weekly interactive sessions where her team helps brainstorm strategies for the parents who share issues and challenging behaviors of their children and youth with autism. Dr. Ijaz is interested in raising autism awareness and understanding and helping parents become their child's strong support and advocates, both at home and in their communities. Dr. Saima Ijaz is a Rawalpindi Medical College graduate with an interest and residency training in pediatrics. When her younger son, now 24 years old, received his diagnosis and then didn't make any gains under the advised therapies, she learned the various established and researched teaching methodologies available in Canada and the United States to set up his home program when he was 4. Dr. Ijaz has worked as an early intensive behavior consultant for ASD children and youth of varying severity levels in British Columbia, Canada. Her interest has been in developing early literacy and coping skills, as well as transitioning the mastered skills to other setups. Her priority cases have been kids under 5 who have not progressed with the offered therapies and the educational setups. She has also worked with children with high behaviors by developing program plans and teaching them coping skills. Dr. Saima Ijaz has a strong association with autism community training of British Columbia, both as a parent in a professional capacity for over 10 years. Dr. Ijaz plans on doing a series on autism with us from early years to adulthood, which we believe will greatly help parents, caregivers, and people trying to understand the mystery that is autism. Please welcome Dr. Saima Ijaz.
Thank you so much, Nazia. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to conduct this series, and also feel grateful to the parents who have taken their valuable time to chime in and are looking at just sharing my PowerPoint first, and then we'll tackle some questions that were sent our way. So thank you again, Nazia, for the gracious introduction. I'll just take you straight, telling you that just adding a little bit to what Nazia said, that I have had 2 decades of an autism journey, which has nothing to do with my medical degree and how I qualified in Ontario, Canada. It started with my son's diagnosis, and actually a little before the diagnosis, because it took us a while to get him there, as he was showing some interests and connections with me. And it was some of the things that I had started doing with him before I approached the medical team. And it sort of delayed a bit in the diagnosis because he started connecting and had a great eye contact, and he sort of missed the diagnosis because of just that. So I've worked both as a behavior interventionist and a consultant, first for my child, and then sort of extended to the community close to me, and the circle widened with time. One of my something that gave me strength and continuous motivation was my connection with parents like myself. So it wasn't just what I was giving them. When I heard them sharing as a parent, it gave me that motivation to continue to look for solutions. So Autism Pakistan group, I initiated in 2002. Then Autism Community Training Network joined in 2005, and Family Support Institute later, and it's a continuing, ongoing journey. Just wanted to share a few pictures of my family from the last century when I had black hair, and my 2 kids who were just 16 months apart. So they are now 26 and 24 years old. But these smiley pictures were few, and there were a lot of issues and a lot of tears and dark days, which I don't like to capture with the pictures, but it did become into those stepping stones to get us into getting those smiles back. Just a little graph here for you guys to see how autism has prevailed in the last 50 years. So in my medical books, what I read was it's 1 in 10,000. So, when it's so rare, there's not too much to read about it. You sort of think it's not something you're going to come across, even as a patient, because I'm not seeing 10,000 patients. The chances that I'll ever see a child with autism is very rare. Why I'm even going to, there is not much literature, and why would I bother to actually go and seek it out? Until I was hit with it in 1996 when my son was born. And the statistics, while in this graph I found, it says it was 1 in 1,000 that time. When I was studying, it was the same time that I was studying for my exams for Canada and States certification. I still had the same 1 in 10,000 ratio shown in the books, in the textbook. So just look how it's gone. It's 1 in 59 now. And the last survey from 2014 says that there's been a 16% increase. So now 1 in 59, while just that makes you think that if you know 10 families or 20 families with 2 to 3 kids, you would know for sure that there's one. And that's if the patient, as a doctor, you're seeing that many patients, which is, of course, 59 is not a big number, then one of them has a child who has autism or has a niece or a nephew. So now it's gone from being that rare to a household story. The presenting complaints, which gets the parent to seek out help, it's lack of speech, number one, or there's no attention span, or there's a lot of hyperactivity, excessive screaming or crying, aggression or self-injurious tendencies. Sometimes parent will go and check with their physician that he doesn't eat anything. So it's not a regular picky eater. It's the type of picky eater that's going to survive on 2 things. And you're worried how his health is doing. So that's like I am talking about autism and not the whole spectrum. But if it's that severe, that's when parents will go and ask for help. Or there are some kids who don't sleep. My child, he lived on 2 hours of sleep. And I just didn't know how he's doing it. But what happens is by the time you get to this point, the child has attained 3 to 4 years of age. And then even with the diagnosis, it narrows down the early intervention period. What we are looking at now, and I want to share, is little signs that you can see at 1 year or even before that. So those are called the red flag. Those are the red flags. So if the child is not responding to his name while he's at 1 year age, doesn't point, that's a big one. Little kids, there are a lot of reasons why a kid is not talking, but then they point or they show you some other ways. This kid is usually pushing or pulling you to things if he gets something. Avoids eye contact, that's another big one. Prefers to play or sit alone, only interacts to achieve a desired goal. So it'll be, if he's really hungry, wants to eat something, or if it's one thing that he's going to cry about, if one thing he likes and it's his bubble bath and you want to take him out and he's going to scream the roof down. So it's 1 or 2 things that he'll just want, and he'll do everything to get to you to do that. But other than that, he's on his own, has flat expressions, is not wanting to interact. Some of the kids, they start babbling and even say a few words and then they lose it. All of those signs, or any of one of those signs, should encourage you to check out. There's a PDF that I want to show you, and I'll actually send it to you, Nazia, so maybe the link can be shared too. So this is what it looks like. There are 16 points, and these are questions. The idea is that almost every parent can reach out to it, can look at it, check if there are 4 signs, then just keep an eye. Then there are other directions. But if there are 8 signs that you're saying yes to, please go and have it checked out with the doctor. Do not delay. So with the help of this chart and signing and getting this professional help, the child can be diagnosed as early as 18 months or even sooner. So why do we want him diagnosed this early? What would it do? Like your parents would be thinking, am I doing it to get him a label and it gets him that tag, and people are going to just, be sympathetic and saying, oh, what did you do? You approached to get him this label? Well, the idea is that these kids have a huge learning potential, but their way of learning and how you want to approach them to help them connect, play, and learn is different from the typical, or what we call as neurotypical kids. Therapists are trained to do that. Special educators know how to work it out. There are a number of books and online sites and tools that can be used without spending a penny. If you have a Wi-Fi, you have a laptop, you have any device, you can pull the stuff up and read about it and learn how to do those simple things. Parent and children support groups are also a very important connection that can help you achieve so much. Um, Feel the grief, get over it, get motivated, start working, not worry that he has a label. Sort of shake away if someone's saying something, that's their problem. It's not your problem. We are there to advocate for the child, help him grow, help him learn, be happy. So and all of that is achievable even if he has autism. Now, diagnosis, like autism spectrum disorder, it's a disorder and not a disease. We do not go to a doctor or a medical center and just walk in and the doctor will just check some signs and flash his torch and say, oh, you got autism, or write you, prescribe you a test. It's not that way. It doesn't happen that way. There are no facial features to tell him that. There's not a single test. History, a lot of questions will be asked. An observation, he might be referred to another team. There might be 2 or 3 specialists there. They'll be observing. You will have to fill some papers about the last year, how it went. And again, putting all those together, this is what doctor is looking at. Are these 4 areas reflected in this child? So autism is a combination of characteristics. There is delay in language. There could be a few words. There could be echolalia. So all those presentations, that's what makes each child individual and different from the other one. So some talk fine. It's just a pronoun error which get mixed or missed. And then there are delays. But there are other features that will still help get the diagnosis. So eye contact is one. If you look at the social ones, again, how babies like to wave back, this kid is probably not going to. They want to sit on their own, not interact with other kids or peers or adults. They might be one favorite person, but it's because they get the care out of that. So it's not as much as a social, it's a support connection. And the ones who are verbal, the high functioning ones, they still have hard time participating in conversations because they have some favorite topics. They like to stick to it and not change as we are used to taking the social cues. Repetitive actions, they could be certain toys or objects that the child wants to carry and just play in a very different way. My child's was a school bus, but he never moved it back and forth. He'll turn it over and feel the wheels. So he's rolling the wheels all the time, and it was one thing he carried all the time with him. And if you want to take it away, it'll be a lot of screaming. So sensory differences is a huge topic on its own, and we'll be discussing it, but it's like, doesn't like the water running, doesn't want to brush his teeth, get his hair washed, because the sounds bother him, the touch bother him, some lights bother him, um, or he's seeking out something too much, like a deep pressure. Um, so these are, but again, if you are finding certain areas in just language and it's not uh, in the sensory or the actions one, this child doesn't has autism. So this is what the doctor would be and the team would be trying to find out. No one wants to overdiagnose or underdiagnose anyone. So all those areas affected from very, very early on. And even the very successful, let me just throw in the name of Bill Gates on ASD, and you talk to his wife and she says he cannot manage his time and executive functioning. So someone personally has to direct him to those things. Someone who's so well achieved and so remarkable in excels in all those areas, but they're so, this tiny little things still linger on. So it starts from birth and goes with life. Some things are persistent. But what is it that he's like? We've talked about what he cannot do or does different. What is it that this child wants? And why is he so sad or has this space outlook? He wants to connect, play, learn, and he wants to be happy. And as a parent, we want that. We want nothing more than to connect, for him to be like other kids. When we say that, what we want is that we want him to be able to play with others, socialize with others, learn and happy and be successful. Where does it all start? Because we already think we're doing everything that we are, or other kid is doing fine. Why not this one? What do we change? What can we do? Little things in ourselves. Like if we have more families right now from Pakistan, and if from other backgrounds that are using more than a language in the household, my one request is please stick to one language and use English. Use words and phrases instead of sentences. Like say, come here, and do a gesture. Like this is for the kids who are very, we're talking about a 1-year-old now, a 2-year-old, very early signs. But if this child is older and this is still an issue, that you think you're telling him something 10 times and he's still not getting it, and you think he's just being lazy, that's not it. He just cannot process that long sentence that has its auditory processing defect that goes with ASD. So it's, if you just say, like instead of saying, why don't you come here when I ask him, I've said it so many times, this is the 10th time, or you just say, come, just drop it down to 2 words, throw in a gesture. When it's time to get him to do something, he's been sitting, not doing much, instead of just saying it's time to move and do that, give him a few choices. Instead of saying, what would you like to do next? Just say, would you like to color or draw? Would you like to go out for a walk or on a tricycle? Would you like a drive? So specific words, even if you're questioning it. But another way of choice is slide or swing. So just words then. You're even dropping out that little question or 3 other words. So very specific, but with choices. Anytime the child looks at you or you see a little bit of engagement there or approaches you with something, always reinforce. And the simple ways of reinforcing is just smiles. Use gestures, high fives, fist bump, thumbs up. and introduce pictures and labels. Um, some kids are great, they can take verbal information, and we think, he's too far advanced. Why would I take him down and show him pictures when he couldn't do that? The reason for that is that if there are labels with the pictures, they give them the sight word vocabulary, and it will actually help them start reading soon. So it's not just and on pictures, I'll just share something later, so I'm not going to go into detail about that. um, Almost every child with autism has uh, picky eating and sleep issues. So what worked for me, I'm always going to talk with some experience about my child because his issues were severe, and also because I've worked with other kids who have severe issues. So I think if those are covered, the others can get some ideas from there, and for them, the steps would be easier. So break it down. Instead of three meals, divide it into 6 meals, but could be small. Don't worry about the eating etiquettes right now. If he's not sitting, if it's an hyperactive kid, that's okay. If he's still 2 years old, 3 years old, if he's running around, he can, and you worried about that he's not eating, like that was my son. So let him grab a finger food, like if it's baked or grilled, it's dry food, he'll probably eat it. As most of you would have acknowledged, French fries is something has a different connections for the kids. It's because it's a finger food. It's easily picked up. It's crispy. It's salty. It has that crispy texture which feels good to the mouth. So think about that. And then, if the chicken is cut that way and grilled or air fried. Also, I tried choices again. So one of the things would be, okay, what he eats. But I had that plate divider that you can find. So always something different in that smaller compartment. And then request would be just one bite and then you can have this. So a little bit, so you're just introducing one bite at a time. But if it feels okay to the child, he might, then you can force him to have too much. So, but just the idea is that he opens up to trying different things, even if it's one bite at a time. So that he just, you can pull him out of just having fries or cookies or snacks. Try to have as much of a healthy stuff, so white meat and fish, and then grill and bake, and make sure not all kids drink water or have enough fluids going into their system. So keep a count how much they're eating and what can you introduce to increase their intake. Um, and talk to your doctor about this, that this is his diet. I'm worried that there might be some deficiencies. Can that be tested? This can be tested with a blood test. So if some deficiencies come up, it could be supplemented. While you're still working how to increase, we don't want him to have any growth issues just because he's lacking certain things. Physical activity, unless there is uh, um, muscle tone, is usually fine, but the coordination is to the level that the child can be too active. Majority kids are active, but they are sort of hyperactive, running out of just escaping or um, finding ways out. Oh, I have to speed up. I'm spending more time here, I just noticed. So I'm just going to, if we can introduce that and structure that, his sleep will improve and his appetite will improve anyways. So I'm going to quickly go and show you the toys and how you can connect and help him play. And so they're cause effect toys like bubbles, relaxation plays and activities, active playtime, And I have a lot of pictures to share now to give you what are the visual and tactile stuff. I like everyone to have a basket of that, and these are some of the examples. If you can feel it, and if you can play it, and it gives them a relaxed feeling, uh, they'll just be more in tune with you. And the idea is that it can also help them connect, because if this kid likes bubbles and you've blown some and then you just stop, he'll sort of approach you to ask for more. And that could be a point that we could cash on later. Music is great. Almost all of them have this good sense of music and rhythm. So look for those programs, kid programs that have music. If it comes with subtitles, that's even great. Lots of TV kid shows that have sort of early words vocabulary to it. I still have to find a child with high needs who doesn't like deep pressure. So simple ones are weighted blanket, weighted vest, just wrapping a child in a blanket like this. This is a version of a squeeze machine that Temple Grandin put together for herself. And these are my two kids. When my elder son noticed how I was relaxing my younger one, he learned to do it the same way. So this is another way of applying pressure, just a hug from behind. They do very well with vestibular and proprioceptives, and this is also will be repeated when we're doing the sensory part. So that's why I'm going fast over these. But most of the kids like the rocking, but they are not going to initiate it. So it will be you sitting on the rocking chair, holding on to your child and slight rocking. Let him feel the movement. And if that's relaxing, you can build on that. Again, swinging. Some like to swing. If you have enough space in the backyard, the swing goes there. Or this bar, I love it because it could be an indoor swing. And the books, mini books or flashcards. Again, around first words, and no child is young enough for the books. There are different types, and then I'll take this up again in one of the sessions. Like the difference here is a black color label on the white black background, and this is on the same colored background. So kids react different to it, and we sometimes have to cue to see which one's working better. One thing that I suggest is that take your own pictures. No first word pictures is going to have your pictures as the family members. That's what the kid wants to know. So pictures of all of you, label it as mom, dad, siblings, but the words that you use at home, if it's abu ami or amma or mama, that's the word you'll use, and you'll not use mom and dad. So whatever works for your family, that's the label. And then pretend plays another thing that's important. So while you're teaching about the family member's name, a Lego family, and then that could initiate the pretend play for him. We'll go into detail about kinesthetic learning, but these are the things that if you can get those, it could be in your basket. That'll be the base of his learning. And these are the books that I'll advise to the parents who have young kids and are just starting the journey. Temple Grandin is someone I look and admire so much. She is a PhD doctor. She has autism. She had a full-blown symptoms when she was young. And she has achieved so much in her lifetime. She still lectures and does teaching for the parents on how to work with your child and how to help them connect. And these two books, More Than Words and How Do I Teach this Child, these are just great. They are assets for any parent. just the saying from Temple Grandin that it's never too late to expand the mind of a person on the autism spectrum. I know we always talk about early intervention in the first 5-6 years, but then it doesn't mean that they can't learn beyond that. My son, he's 24, he's still learning. And I like the parents to keep a list of motivators of what is working, what do they like the most, and how effective, and revise it every month or 2 months. So things might change and it'll help us connect and let them take the next steps into learning and teaching. So that concludes my first part, and I'm open to questions. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you so much, Saima. Appreciate that. We have, you actually have access to the chat group, and it looks like we have a question from Mr. Iqbal. Would you like me to read the question to you, or would you like to read it yourself?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Yes,
So he says, first off, he says, thank you to you, certainly for joining us. Thanks to Alliance. The question is, any suggestions on raising public awareness back home in Pakistan, like the remote village areas?
Well, that would be my concern too, because with the internet and I've been able to connect at some places, of course. And my idea was that if we have like this resource center that was established in Karachi, then when in 2016 I went, I saw a couple of great centers in Islamabad, Pindi area. Honestly, it's more like you have to be on ground to work it more from there. But if there was something that I could be able to do, I would love to. I really don't know. If they have issues with electricity, if they have issues with Wi-Fi, depends which rural area we're talking about. Of course, some are more advanced than others. So I wouldn't know. This is going to spread out more from the urban to the rural, I think.
Yep. So I would actually, if Mr. Iqbal, sir, if you'd like to unmute yourself and sort of elaborate, is there something specific that you would like, sort of assistance with, or was this sort of a general question? I see him. He's on mute.
I'm going to stop sharing so I can.
Sure.
I can always go back.
I am not sure if he is, because it looks like he's still on mute. So I guess I will just take it as that was more of a general question than a specific one. So okay, sounds good. So I do have a couple anonymous questions that we received. The first one is, what are the main causes of autism?
Well, this is an ongoing search, as you know. Scientists, doctors, it's been a long ongoing thing checking about what, because I went from sharing to not sharing. Now it's not letting me go back.
Oh, hold on. Let me make you the host again.
Okay. So on the top of the list, the probable causes, we still think about there could be a connection.
So you're actually still the host.
Yes, I am the host. I'm not getting. I can see can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
You can? Okay, all I had to do was this. Okay. So just one type of autism, which has got a hereditary cause. That's all we've been able to. And it's a very small percentage. It's called Rett syndrome. It's for, usually it's seen in girls. They start talking, then they regress, and they have lots of seizures. So that's, like I say, a very small one. So the rest is not hereditary. Um, a probable cause, suggested cause has been environmental and toxins and pollution, not proved. Viral infections during pregnancy, not proved. These are all probable causes that you might have heard of. So none of this is really a cause as of now. So this child is born with a brain that looks like the brain of a neurotypical. No differences there. But over the time, this is, if you can appreciate this, that there's a neuroconnectivity issue. This strand, you see how strong and uniform it is. And over here, you see the connectivity, there's less of it. And this is what we can change with by connecting with the child through play, through therapies, through, so this is probably a way that the brain functions a little different. We say it's the same hardware, it's the software, and we can build on that. And some of them have such huge skills that you wonder if you have all the early intervention in there and where they excel to, is that's why we don't call it a disease, it's a disorder. It's a disorder of how we perceive the sensory stimulus and how our brain is interpreting it.
Thank you. We'll go back to the chat. We actually are receiving some questions there. From Miss Saba Mahmood, can autism go away or is it a lifelong condition?
It is, unfortunately, it is lifetime because the connectivity is going to be, they will always connect in a different way. But if we make those connections strong with the early work, whether it's done at home, whether it's done through therapists or special educators, they excel in academics, they learn other skills, they get the coping mechanisms going. They are engineers, they are PhD doctors, they go into different fields. We still have to maneuver it that they try to choose the right career, to make the right career choices. The one with very severe ones, we are still struggling. And the reason again was that now they're at an age that when we started, my son, when he was born in 96, there wasn't that much education. We tried to make our path, but doing that, we missed those early years. So the early signs, early intervention does so much that, if this child can be successful, if we can be able to have a relationship and a partner, isn't that what we want for our child to be successful, to be? So, and then would it matter if he still has a few quirks here and there?
Thank you. Going back to the chat, we've got a question from Mr. Sabri. This question may have already been asked. What is the cause of exponential increase in autism cases?
Okay. So, like I said, we want to find it so badly, so like how much research has gone into it, because we would all love to find a cause that's preventable so we don't have to go through this headache and the pain and the heartache. But again, a big part of increase is also because there's detection and diagnosis, there's awareness. I can hear back and to stories where we would know that there are people who were kept in the basement because they could get aggressive. So just because autism term came around in 1950 doesn't mean that it wasn't there. It's always been there. Those were never diagnosed, they were never detected, so never went into the statistics. Once we started detecting it, it went in the number forms into a graph. So the more we are going into it, it's increasing the numbers. And the second part, we think it's how the brain is changing, and it's happened for, we've always noticed that even our neurotypical, they are more visually oriented. Not, we always say, hum to sunte the, hum to, but now they are so focused into screen. That's where they learn. That's what the word is. Overall, the neuroactivity on connectivity has changed. And some of us who are very, very optimistic, and I am guilty of that, we think that these kids are far ahead. They were supposed to be born in the next century and they got born early and we hadn't caught up with the technology and stuff. But we can do to help them with when they're younger, to help them directed in the areas which are strong for them, which can be their strength. And they can take the word on their own then. That's me being overly optimistic, of course. But overall, we have the only two reasons why this increase. There could be an actual increase. And I'll go back to a slide, which I really want to talk about. Not the probable causes. Okay, all the reasons since this term autism was coined. The very first one was the cause is refrigerator mums, which was the mums are not warm enough, so their kids become aloof. They have been traumatized. We think it's a third world talk, but it happened right here in States, carried for 30 years. The next came along, and the type of torture, and you can think what happened, how when the child, it gets all blamed on the moms who have to take the charge of nourishing and taking care of the child, but then get blamed that they are the reason. Then MMR vaccination, that came along in 1998 as the probable cause. And then not just that, but other vaccinations might be causing it. So avoid vaccination. Once I can go into more detail afterwards if you like me to. But that was such a huge mistake because lots of parents stopped vaccinating their kids. And then we saw the resurfacing of mumps and measles and the complications related to that. Diseases that were eradicated almost from the countries, and then they reappeared. And the graph still continued to increase. If that had been true, it would have dropped, right? At least autism would have dropped. But no, that continued even for the parents who stopped vaccinating. So hopefully that's not what the parents are thinking, but if you're thinking, please read about it. And I can go into more detail because this is not a cause. Then came around the detoxification therapy about, there are so many pollution, pollution is and toxins in the air that's causing it, or it's coming from the preservatives that's used in the vaccination, like mercury. And so the chelation therapy, which caused such huge side effects, it made a lot of money for the people who were rooting for it, increase their bank balance, yes. And what happened to the kids? Their health suffered. Parents, they were financially affected, of course, and it didn't help them learn anything or get better. The other two, one, and I was so amazed because people continuously approached me from Pakistan saying, oh, can I come to Canada or States and get a bone marrow transplant because I've heard that it'll cure it. And I'll say, for God's sake, we're living here and we haven't heard about it. And I actually looked at, they wouldn't take my call. There were centers that said that. And, I'll say those are all scams. All these causes, people are coming up and what they're doing is they are hook, that's a hooks. They make parents pay an enormous amount. It doesn't give them any benefit, but they have, they lose their jobs because they were out approaching these and they were with their child and they just land into financial crisis. So there's another huge problem set up for them. And then the cochlear implant, that it's because the child cannot hear. That's why he's not responding. So get this cochlear implant for 4 lakhs and your child would be cured. This was in 2016 when I went to Pakistan and I saw those huge posters everywhere. And my mind was simply blown that there goes another way people are making money at the expense, because these parents, they love their child. They want them to be cured somehow. And people are just playing with their emotions over and over again in different ways. So please, please be, if you are connected with parents somewhere, not here, not in States, talk to them, tell them, this is not what we hear. It's not working here. These are some private set people who are scamming you out of money. So therapies is the way to go.
Thanks so much. You actually covered one question, which was, do vaccines cause autism? So
yeah, I can definitely go in little more detail if you. So this is the doctor actually who published a paper in 1998. And I got so involved into it because my son born in 1996, that's when I was actually looking at all that information. And it wasn't based on any statistics. There was no control group. It was just phone calls. One of the things was that this vaccine is given at 18 months. It's the same time that the child, parents start noticing those symptoms, and they take the child to the doctor. What were they listening so far? That it's the mom that's causing it. Now those poor parents, the mom wants to, want to find out this. It's not me. It has to be something else. Come on, it's not me. So the next thing, if it comes up, it's vaccination. Yeah, she wants to clear herself of the blame that she's been getting for the years. She'll say, okay, yes, it could be vaccine. Yeah, at least it's not me. So that was another reason. The one thing is the immune system of the kids is a little like the sensory system. It's either hyperactive or hypoactive. So some of including my own kids, when he got the 18-month one, he had a fever and he has vesicular eruption. It happened, and then that also got me thinking, oh, so it was a little severe reaction to what the neurotypical kids get after a vaccination. So how easy it is to connect those dots, and if you're already under so much emotional pressure, to fall for it. The bad thing is this doctor did it for his publication and for his name and his paper. So it was his agenda. Real studies were done. It was taken seriously. It has never added up. And then, one bad thing sometimes flattens out the good work done by so many. And then, of course, doctors all over, then that's what they've been saying. Based on science, vaccines do not cause autism, not the booster dose. And I'll tell you, being a mom, being a doctor, I delayed my child booster dose. I was so shaken by it. And then I got it, I delayed it by a year, and I did get it done. So if you've been there, please do not put a blame on yourself. Because it's our child, we want to know a cause so we can treat it, but don't fall for it.
Thank you. A really interesting question. Is there a test for autism during pregnancy?
No, not during pregnancy, not after pregnancy, not when he's 4 or 8 or 12 or 20. There's no test. You can't tell in utero. You can't tell when he's born. These kids have the same facial features. Nothing is different in the body or the brain. It's only the connectivity that happens if we continue to talk and teach them the way we do to our typical kids, and they just learn a little differently. That's what it is.
Thank you. Yeah. A question from actually Nazia Bhabi. Why is there still so much stigma attached to this diagnosis? Autism. Right?
I think I'll say for 30 years, if people were able to get away by blaming the moms, and even in countries like America and Canada, from 1950 to 1980. And I sometimes think if I was in that era, how it would have affected me. Now, a good thing about education and where you're reading books and you're connected in the society, that overall their literacy rate is better, is that we read and we move on. While in the societies where, there's no love for the books or learning. It's the same thinking. You've heard something, that's in your mind. And I am so sorry to share this, but I heard comments from my extended family, some of it, and the so-called friends, that made me just step back because I couldn't handle it anymore. And it was like, if something's wrong with the child, maybe the mother is on drugs. So they don't know what they're saying. There's insensitivity, which is, I see more in the third world country people, even if they come and relocate, because they have, by habit, they don't change. I don't see it in the generation that's growing here, but the generation that grew up in Pakistan or India or Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, they moved, they've been here for 20, 30 years, they still sort of say the same things. I'll just say this is there. We don't say about why it is there. Why is it still like that? Why don't we say, what can I do about it? You don't have to take it. Some things just pick some just become some thick-skinned person. Doesn't happen over time. But step back. Don't reply. Just focus on what your job is now, and that is to help this child grow and play and become an advocate, because he needs that. And these people, they don't need any of your attention or response. So don't bother spending any energy on that. Just shake it off.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So you mentioned that, there's no test during pregnancy. So how do pediatricians screen for autism? Is it mandatory for every child? So I guess, is there sort of a test that happens?
There is no test. It comes back to those early signs that I talked about. if you as a parent can see, please go talk to your family doctor, and then he'll ask you some questions and make a referral to the pediatrician. There might be a speech language pathologist, psychiatrist, depending where you are in the world. It might be just one person, it might be a 3-person team, it could be different setup depending on where you are. But they will ask you or give you a questionnaire to fill in to get some information. And then they will observe the child. So those 4 areas that I talked about, it's not just going to be just language delays. It would also be how he's socially connecting, how he's behaving with the doctor or with the pediatrician while he's there. Can they connect with him? What signs he's showing? How he's holding certain objects or how he's responding to certain stimuli. A combination of all that is going to help them with the diagnosis. So it is a little complicated. That's why it takes a little longer than just one visit. And then they'll direct you to a team of therapists and to the centers like CDC. Every place will have a different setup, but it's the early year educators and trained in a certain way who will be able to help your child. And there'll be resources for you to learn from that too.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. We're actually out of time. Believe it or not, that went pretty quick. It was 1 hour. Really want to thank you, Dr. Ijaz, for taking the time to speak with us. These are sort of a set of series that will be starting in May, and I'll sort of pass it over to the president, Nazia Bobby, to sort of wrap things up. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saima Ijaz, for your time. And I'm sure all the members and all the people who are participating learned a lot. And we are all looking forward to learning and having a better understanding of this disorder and how to treat, how to be a little bit more sympathetic, have a little bit of better understanding of parents who are dealing with this and raising awareness. So thank you very much for your time and for the resources that you shared. Looking forward to our next session with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.